our research questions include three questions. First, what are the main problems that SOFL students use in learning EET? Second, what are the causes of these issues? And the third one, what solutions should be given to deal with the difficulty in learning electrical engineering and telecommunications? Our objective is 2 points. First is to find the difficulty of second-year students of SOFL in learning EET course, which will be giving more detail in this final report. And the second is providing academic reference materials, which we have given you. Our scope of the study is to research on the use of academic reference materials in the EET class and as well as the preparation at home. And the second is the telecommunication. Actually, the EET class is included two main parts: is the electrical engineering, and the second part is the telecommunication. However, due to the lack of time, so we only focus investigate in telecommunications. However, the reference material is covered two main parts. The structure of the research is the 4-part. Chapter 1, literature review. Chapter 2 is the methodology or the research of the studies. Chapter 3 is the discussion and recommendation, and the extra part, the further study. The list of abbreviation we use in the research has been attached to the report. Next, I will start with the first chapter, literature review. First is an overview of English, of science and technology, and the second point is the using of L1 reference material for learning English. In the 20th century, right after the Second World War, EST was developed strongly in the elastic section of the people in science, technology, and business. And that's why EST development to be as the key, important key, to open the door to industrialization and modernizations. And actually, it's become an essential skill that everyone wishes for. And nowadays, it's an important branch of English for learning and teaching that are most focused in School of Foreign Language of University of Science and Technology. In EST course, in SOFL, we give you the definition, the typical and feature of this science and technology field. The next point, I would like to explain more about characteristics of English for science and technology. First, we should find out more about the relationship between the language knowledge and basic background knowledge. It will say that language knowledge is totally different from the background knowledge. However, actually they are interact with other and giving the full comprehension of English learning. And SOFL students should focus on this point to prepare the full comprehension of both language knowledge and background knowledge. They are very important. And here are 3 typical features of EST. First is the specificness for a certain group of learners. What they need English for, that's called the specific needs. And the next 2 points engineering and telecommunication. And they are covered both linguistic content and technical content, which is a challenge for SOFL students. The aim of the EET course in SOFL is to not only provide the English proficiency for English translation and interpretation, but also to provide the specialty knowledge to use in the further future in the working environment of science and technology. According to Hutchinson and Waters, the theory of learning EET is very important. They would build an individual material with the content forming parts. First is a fascinating text. The second is an enjoyable activity which encourages the student to think intensely, and the third is the opportunities for learners to use their existing knowledge and skill to make them more confident. And the fourth is the content which both learner and teacher can do it. And that is the basis that we provide the Vietnamese reference materials. As we know, reference materials is the extra materials to provide basic knowledge, and sometimes they provide the further knowledge and clear explanation more than the main syllabus. However, everything has both sides. First, I will focus on negative effects of Vietnamese reference materials. First, they lead to Our questionnaire survey will carry out is designed based on three methods. The first is participant opinions in learning EET, and the second is the direct courses have increased on learning EET, and finally, the awareness benefit material should be used in learning EET. And the second method is observation. We chose randomly two classes in one shift, and the purpose of research is investigate current situation in learning EET of secondary student at SOFL. And the third method is witness and protest. We chose randomly trained students to estimate exam knowledge in EET, and after that, 10 students were chosen to have the same result to set up experimental group and control group. Experimental group is a group who will give the material before its lecture, but the control group will not give the material before its lecture. And the purpose of this research is to check the effectiveness of using the material between experimental group and control group. And after completing and protest, we interview experimental group to check and confirm the effectiveness of using the material. And after research methodology, we collect some data. The first is from questionnaire survey. We collect some information in the first year. 55% participation think that learning EET is difficult, and only 5% think that is easy. And here is a chart. Express the difficulty in learning English for ethical engineering and communication. The difficult is focused on four methods. The first is studying physical, studying physics in foreign language is very hard. Second is technical vocabulary, is unable to remember. The third is the contents of the method is difficult to grasp, and finally there are too many moving principles as well. That's difficult to understand. And the second chart is the process of the difficulty in learning EET. To explain some difficulties, we are given some processes. The first is the lack of practical knowledge. The second is lack of technical vocabulary, and the next is lack of visual aids, complex grammar structure, and no one to time limitation is the cause of the difficulty in EET. And the third task is the content in the material. When we suggested using the material, 100% people agree the material should be used in learning EET. So
one question, a lot of questions, but the first question is about the methodology, research methodology. It seems to me that you have been using experimental research because you mentioned pre-test, post-test, you mentioned control group and experimental group. But you know what are the basic criteria or the basic things to carry out an experimental research?
We carry out a test with 20 students. This is my background knowledge in DET, and from the result, we should test students to have the same result to set up
Okay. You know what? Normally they start an experimental research by say giving a hypothesis. But I can't see any hypothesis here. Yeah, we need to give hypothesis before when we do experimental research. And at the end of the research of the study, we need to check whether those hypotheses are correct or correct or incorrect. But I can't see any kind of answering such kind of question, the hypothesis here, because you don't propose any kind of hypothesis. But it's okay because I can understand that in a way that hypothesis in this case is in the form of research questions. It's okay. But I can't see any kind of answer the research question at the end of your research or your presentation. The second question, you talk about pre-test and post-test. Can I see the pre-test and post-test of your research?
It's not pre-test and post-test. Actually, we got pre and post mean that before the reference material, you got the pre-test, and we have no materials. After they have material, you got a post-test. You only got the control group and experimental group. So one you got the reference material, one have no reference materials. So it difference.
It's enough. We have two 20 students to keep in mind background knowledge in DET. So that you test and post-test we should test students to test pre-test in
how can you measure the difference, the change when you use
What does They mentioned both here, but in the results you only mentioned the retest and process. That's the reason why we raised the question.
Another thing is, it seems that the situation in state is really ideal because I can see there is a lot of students in the experimental group. They are very interested in your material. But exactly, you know that in the real experimental result, they just measure the change in the performance. They don't mention, say the kind of interest or something like the attitude. And then normally they measure the change in performance. That's why you have to use retest and post-test in experimental research. Okay.
Sorry, but I have professional actually because basically students we have to learn about.
Okay, it is a kind of sharing. That's not no criticism or anything like that in that way. Okay? To carry out some kind of research, we need to read the theory very well, understand it, the way to carry out. Because experimental research is really difficult to carry out. You know that are you sure that the experimental group, say, can be separated from any other kind of type of impact? I mean, they just read the reference material. Or maybe at home they just surf the internet, or maybe they have friends from, a technical student, that's why they have, those students can ask the experimental group to improve their knowledge instead of reading the reference material. That's why you need to mention that in your study if you talk about experimental research. And the control group, may think that in this case, say the control group maybe they don't read the reference material, but at home they may search the internet or something like that. You can control that.
Testing, we have the concept form to all
Yeah, this is one of the disadvantages of experimental research because we're not sure about the human being.
You can be sure about that because students are very easy.
I agree. Yeah. Otherwise, the next sure that is.
Yeah, I'm sure they're very easy.
Yes.
Yeah, I used to do it.
About the say you talk about the reliability of the source in your reference material. But how can you measure the reliability in this case? Because they can't see any kind of reference on the name of the author, the source, the book that you just make reference to make this kind of reference material. You can't see anything. So is it in your computer now?
Yeah, right. So,
Actually, you should because it's quite important. How useful do you think the materials are? Yeah. How?
You have to define a standard for selecting the material. Because in order to replicate a study, in order to for other research groups to replicate the same research, and you have to tell them which criteria you selected.
because one of the purposes of this research is to design supplementary material.
Teaching material, just
Yeah, anyway, because task is to design materials. So that's why you need to include in the literature review some part about how to design
Reference
references materials.
The topic is now reference
Anyway, we
material.
are very happy because you have this one. Okay, you have a prompt. Yeah, so that's good job.
We appreciate this one.
And you are second year students, so we really appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Bye.